Weird science
is the revolution.
Kid Venom Origins, #1, it's collected stuff from the whole Death of Venomverse 2 to 5. During the Death of Venomverse book, you ended up having this Kid Venom. The thing that scares me about it, first off, I have a feeling that people are going to push back at this just because it's manga-esque.
Mm-hmm.
But it also was, I didn't hear anybody talk about this character at all when Death of Venomverse was coming out. I didn't get
the malt shop even?
In that, no. The malt shop, the skate ranch, or down at the rec center, nobody talked about Kid Venom. Now, some people do end up talking about the Marvel manga. The Deadpool and the Spider-Man have done really well. And this was originally going to be a manga and was kind of a treatment for a manga. And you get the writer Tagami, doing this, and they ended up getting a hold of him and saying, hey, we like what you did. But it took a while. He said he was doing this in 2018, and then it kind of took a bit. I think that the times had to catch up, and they're like, hey, listen, we can do this. It's manga-esque. Really what it is Demon Slayer, it seems like at the beginning here. Why not hit with this now? Maybe they waited a little too long.
Maybe
I don't know. But again,
Western Comics, Jim.
It might. I doubt it will. But I do think that it has the potential to be pretty good in April. The problem is with this, it is a little disjointed. It's very quick. You don't get a lot of like the stuff that you'd expect from a first issue of a manga. You're never going to get it from this because it is these little 5-page stories that ended up going in these backup kind of things put together here. I like it enough. I think that the art is pretty good, and I think that there's something that can be done with this character that maybe people should loosen up a bit. I think that there's going to be a lot of people immediately are going to have problems with this, but I think that the setup is pretty cool. But it is Kid Venom Origins #1, written and art by Tagami, colors by Guru, effects and letters by VC's Clayton Coles. And just to point out, there is a translation. So this was originally written in Japanese, and the translation by Aki Yanagi. So you go into this, and again, me and you do a bunch of manga podcasts. That's why I had you on here. And it does have the manga feel. Me and you said that maybe we would have liked it a little better if it was in black and white and read right to left. But I think that might be too much for people. You know what I mean?
It is. It's kind of a weird thing because you mentioned that the Western comics readers are probably going to be like, oh, it's too manga. And then your manga readers are like, yeah, it's too Western comics. It's kind of caught between the two. So I think that might hurt the success of it.
I hope that it kind of as everybody could again loosen up, and maybe read it. Now, people are probably the Venom fans, symbiote fans, things like that. First off, you end up hearing Kid Venom, and I think that the lay of the land is to people to get mad and say, "Oh, what is this going to replace? Eddie or Dylan or we?" It's nothing like that. And really, you kind of have to let loose on some of the things where if you start, bitching and moaning that, oh my God, why is there a symbiote at this? Because this takes place in the past. And I think that's a good play. It doesn't look like, at least as we see this, and I read the solicit for the first issue, that this is going to be like a Spider Boy. Oh my God, everybody forgot about him and he's back, whatever. This takes place in 977 AD in feudal Japan. I should have just said feudal Japan, but it's 977 and you're in Japan, it seems. And so you're not going to butt heads with anything else. And I think that's good. I think that it has its own thing going. And again, it's Demon Slayer as a Venom type deal. As we go forward, you'll see that because when we start out, I had no idea what was, happening, obviously. So we go in and you have this village that's getting attacked by what looks like just a carnage symbiote. It's red, you get that play. And they're struggling. You have a girl, possibly a guy. I'm always the worst deal to say anything like that.
I'll go a little girl here.
I think a girl, but you end up where if you have listened to any of our manga podcasts, 100% wrong every single time. It's a 50-50 chance for crying out loud. I never get it right. I just never do. But you end up where this girl, you get this kind of like in the head deal of, oh my God, my dad's going to die, because the villagers are going to fight off this carnage Venom type deal with wooden shovels. One guy has like a spear, but a lot of rakes, hoes. I don't mean that girl. And they're going to die. I mean, they're going to die. And she even says, oh my God, they're going to die. And again, when you go in, if you're going to sit there and think, the color part might throw some people off if you're manga fans, but if you think about this as the beginning of a new series where they have a couple color pages, I think that it does pretty much look pretty good. I mean, it's not bad.
The colors are well done. It's just, it throws off manga readers.
The manga part of your brain gets thrown off. Now, I will tell you that I think that when I realized that this really did feel like a legit manga is when I kind of got thrown off by reading left to right as well. I mean, I don't have that problem reading any Western quote unquote comics. But when I was doing this, and I just want to point out real quick, if you have read some things where people have said, oh my God, this is manga-esque art. Oh my God, that we have that in, say, at DC a lot, like Blue Beetle, or you have it in like the Speed Force book. Terrible book, but still, people will say, oh my God, this is manga-esque art. When you see this, it's so much different. Like when you actually see legit manga art and turned into colored and put in this book, you realize that that other stuff is nonsense. And usually what happens nowadays, if a Western book ends up having digital art, they suddenly are like, oh, that's manga, that's anime inspired. No, it's computer-esque, digital art. It's not either or. And so when you see this, I'm like, okay, this is legit as you go. It's just, again, this is just an intro. It's just these little snippets. But while this is going on, I'm wondering, is this girl going to turn into Kid Venom? It's not the case. All of a sudden, you get a samurai show up. And he's like, hey, everybody, back off. I'm Samurai from the capital. He's from Capital City. Says, is everyone safe? Okay, I see what's going on here. And boom, he says, Clinter, let's get going. And that's his symbiote. And once he turns into this Kid Venom, it's more like Samurai Venom, or Ninja Venom. But he ends up saying, hey, and starts talking in the Wii. You get that whole play, but basically says it's time to eat. And when you're there, if you're reading this and you don't ever, haven't read manga or whatnot, I mean, you might sit there and say, okay, this is Nightcrawler meets Beast Boy meets Venom. It does have that feel of all of it, but he's okay. He's pretty cool. He wants to get this symbiote that he's fighting out of, the village, and he decides to take it to the sky by launching this thing up and then jumping up to face it, and then ends up where we get this little background that what his symbiote does, what it needs to do is eat other symbiotes, and they're calling them onis, they're calling them demons.
So it goes into Japanese folklore and stuff,
it works,
and I think that's a good play. Yeah.
The idea that people are going to see it and think, Venom as a sidekick, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. It's not that.
It's like an alternate story.
I actually like that it's separate. So says and explains that this symbiote, it needs to eat other symbiotes to keep going. And when it does, it ends up pretty much, grabbing the DNA of that symbiote, and he's able to then use forms that it gets the memories. This is something that the symbiote would do anyway, but ends up being able to get forms. So he turns into a falcon at this point, and it's pretty cool. I mean, he's this huge falcon in the air. He's fighting this Oni. At this point, you see that Carnage type Oni here it's a bear. You see it's kind of bear, but it's like Iron Spider bear.
Yeah.
It has all these, tentacles and things and legs coming out its back. But you do get that cool falcon form from Kid Venom. His name is Kintaro, we find out. And he ends up, going, and he's going to eat this thing. He's only eating the Oni part of it. He's actually like sucking the symbiote part out of it in a non-sexy way, maybe sexy. And the bear now will be able to live. And we'll get to that in a minute, because at one point, even this Carnage, it freaks out. It sees that Kid Venom's there, knows that it's going to have some problems, and ends up shooting out like globules of symbiote to try to make the villagers into symbiotes as well. And you have a play where Kintaro is able to save them, so that's cool. So he does end up saving the village. He ends up taking care, and it's very quick. Again, these are just little snippets. And I said, if you're a manga fan, it works as like a couple pages before you get into the main story. I just wish we didn't have to wait until April, because then we see that what happens. Now, before we get to the whole deal of how this works, whatnot, you do end up having a flashback to see how the bear turned. I do want to point out that it does the manga deal where you have black borders.
See, I just noticed.
Because it's not in black and white, that really stands out in black and white. I wish that there was a part of this that explained it. And hopefully they do some explaining in that first issue where they say, hey, everybody, when you have all black, and thick black borders on a page, that is a flashback because the art and colors do not change here. You have to know that, deal.
Yeah. The first read through, I thought, boy, that's a weird transition there.
Because this is where you end up seeing how this bear ended up getting the symbiote, it looks like. And I think that I'm on the money here. It looks like a lady who looks like the main symbiote, deal. And well, then again says, give the power to the true king. Me, maybe it is a guy. I don't.
Yeah, the king thing throws me off, but I don't know. Sure, she can be a king.
Yeah, king it is. But yeah, that's a flashback again. So I hope that they spell that out. Just have a little editor's note or have a thing at the beginning of the first issue that explains some of the ways, some of the mechanisms of the manga. That's going to be the main one. But I like now that I saw it because I didn't recognize it the first time through either. And so I'm glad they at least do that. That's pretty cool. But then you go to episode 4. Again, it throws you off. But you have Kentaro Kid Venom hanging out in the forest. Little, you said that there's Dr. Doolittle.
Yeah, he's doolittling it up.
He is doodling a bit, but he is kind of dope. But he's writing a letter, and you do see that bear wake up. So he saved that bear. Now that you have the symbiote out of the bear, it's back, and you have a little cub come out like, Daddy, you're alive. Now they're talking, and it's like, what? Again, it works in a month, but he actually explains now that he has taken in that symbiote, they can talk to each other.
Yeah, it's explained. I get why it can happen.
It's cute.
It doesn't mean I have to like it.
No, it's cute. You just don't like cute stuff, right? So as well as your wife, because she managed. Oh my goodness! But yeah, it's like Daddy's alive. It's just to give you that play of, hey, look, he's a cool kid who saves animals. Here he is, and you pish posh it. But he also, in the point, I guess that's the Falcon that he ended up. That's why he was able to turn the Falcon later, I guess. So he ends up giving a note. Ends up giving this note to the Falcon. And says, get this letter to Raiko-san full speed. And I wish there was a joke here because the Falcon goes, Roger. And he's like, no, I said Raiko-san. Roger's a jerk. Don't give it to him. That guy's a lazy layabout. But he goes off to deliver this. Again, if you are a Demon Slayer fan, very similar to their deal. They have crows that go around. I mean, you could even go as far as saying Harry Potter had the owls. It's kind of that trope type deal. I like it. I like that he ends up having some woodland friends. Right? To go around,
sure.
Help them out.
Maybe they'll do a Disney song together later.
Yeah, why not? Just start singing it up. And I mean, I love when we see a character bear in the woods. Right? I don't know if that worked, but you end up where the Falcon's going to go off, but it's Tensuki, too, as the Falcon, I think, will be part of the regular book. Obviously, I don't know that Bear Dad and Cub will be part of it, but maybe. We'll see. But he sends this letter. And then you go to Kyoto, the house of Minimoto Yorimitsu, which may or may not be an alias for C.B. Cebulski. I don't know. I'm not judging here. But you have a guy, you don't really see his full face, but says, oh, the son of Shoten Doji is very close. Huh, I must prepare immediately. But like you said, at one point, I didn't even get the play. Like, is this the letter he wrote? Well, then that would be something good.
It seems ominous, but I think he sent the letter to this guy, so I would assume they're on the same team or whatever. We have to worry about that woman who wants to be king.
She's the crazy one that we're going to have to watch out, and she's going around making these symbiotes. This is going to be the big villain. Again, if you're reading Demon Slayer, very similar the way that they have that going on. So I'm interested in it. I thought that it was pretty good. It's very quick. I understand that it's like just snippets, so you can't really get fully invested, but I am liking the character and the setup enough that I will be reading the first issue when it comes out in April. What's that, like 2028? Is that how it works?
Yes.
I mean, seriously. I actually was thinking 2 more weeks from now.
It's just a quarter of a year away, Jim.
I mean, but still, have this come out in March then. Truth the why you have it come out now and wait that long for it, because I know.
Well, the date on this book is March, so maybe it'll come out in February.
It now claims ship date. And we'll see.
Wow.
We'll see. But hopefully we'll both be alive by then and we'll be able to talk about it. We might both be gone. Who knows? But we'll see how that plays out. But what would you give this?
I'm going to go ahead and give it a 7.7. A Paul Coffey.
Yeah, I like the Paul Coffey, right?
Yeah, good. It's good intro to manga via Marvel. And maybe it'll win some people over because it's not strictly manga. It's got the color. It's got the left to right. I don't know. It's all right. I'm not keen on the talking to animals aspect of it, but otherwise, yeah, it's pretty good.
You're a dud. I'm going to give it a 7.7, but it's the Ray Bork.
Ray Bork? Okay.
I'll do that deal. Though I love Paul Coffey. I like Paul Coffey way more than Ray Bork. Hey, all you weirdos, if you like comic book shows, podcasts, videos, please check the description of this video where you can see links to all of our podcast shows, websites, all of that. And if you want to help us out for everything that we do, you can click on that Patreon link in the upper left-hand corner and check out our Patreon where you can go right now and get a 7-day free trial to see all the stuff that we do, shows that are Marvel, DC, indie, manga, and even more. So check all that out, and I'll talk to you all later.
Weird science
is the revolution.